discover how a single dad CEO's kind gesture of 2 coffees changed a poor girl's life forever. On a foggy San Francisco morning, the air was thick with the scent of roasting beans and freshly baked pastries. Zach, a 38-year-old CEO, stood in line at his favorite local coffee shop, mentally bracing himself for another day of juggling business demands and single fatherhood. Mia, his 10-year-old daughter, was his bright spot, her laughter ringing in his ears like a melody. But mornings were chaos. Between school lunches and his own relentless schedule, he often felt adrift. As he waited, Zach's attention drifted to a somber conversation at a corner table. Lily, a waitress in her early 20s, sat across from her elderly grandfather. He wore a weathered face filled with worry, and sadness lingered in the air as they discussed struggling to afford their next meal. Zach's chest tightened. Their plight resonated, echoing his own battles with time and resources since the messy divorce that had upended his life. Moved by their struggles, he impulsively bought 2 coffees, one for himself, another for Lily. When he handed it to her, surprise lit up her eyes. You didn't have to," she stammered, caught off guard. Her grateful smile was like sunlight breaking through clouds, igniting something within Zach. Their conversation flowed effortlessly. Laughter bubbled up, brightening the corner of the cafe as they shared stories. Zach learned about Lily's dreams of college, her grandfather's sacrifices, and her fierce hope to lift them out of hardship. Inspired by her grit and resilience, Zach felt a longing to be more than just a CEO. He wanted to be a mentor, a guiding light for Lily in a dim world. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. But as life does, fortune quickly turned upside down. A catastrophic setback hit his startup, plunging Zach into a financial crisis. Panic clawed at him. Would he have to shutter the doors he'd fought so hard to keep open? The promise he'd made to help Lily seemed to hang by a thread. As the weeks slipped by, their bond deepened. The community around them became a lifeline, individuals grappling with their own struggles banded together, forming a support network against the tide of inequality. They uplifted each other, sharing resources and encouragement, whispering hope amidst the chaos of life. Yet, tensions flared when a smug entrepreneur dismissed Zach in a crowded meeting, questioning his commitment to help Lily and others like her. Anger simmered in his chest as he recognized the barriers they all faced. The stakes were high. He could either surrender to defeat or rise as a beacon for not just Lily but all those yearning for change. The weight of their futures rested on his shoulders. As Zach stood at this crossroads, the uncertainty felt suffocating. The choice was simple yet profound. Embrace despair or join forces with Lily, risking everything for the hope of a brighter future. His heart raced at the thought of what lay ahead, eager yet terrified, leaving a question hanging in the air: could they truly forge a way forward together amid the storm of life? Zach felt the weight of the world pressing down on him. He stared out the cafe window, watching raindrops race down the glass, blurring the bustling street beyond. He could no longer ignore the growing dread in his chest. What if everything he had worked for with so much sacrifice and sleepless nights came crashing down? The thought clawed at him, tightening his throat. But as he took a deep breath and felt the warm coffee cup between his hands, he remembered Lily's grateful smile. "Hey, Dad?" Mia's voice broke through his thoughts. She tugged at his sleeve, her bright blue eyes wide with curiosity. "Are you all right?" "Yeah, sweetie. Just thinking," he replied, forcing a smile. "I have a good idea for school," she explained, bouncing on her toes. Can we do community service together? It would be fun. The light in her eyes ignited something within him. Perhaps this was the spark to ignite change. A way for them to take action together. Absolutely. We can make a difference, right? He said, finding his rhythm again. Over the next few days, Zach and Mia brainstormed projects that could help their own neighborhood. They decided to organize a community food drive, gathering not just food, but also clothing and basic necessities for those in need. At school, when Mia spoke about their mission, her enthusiasm spread like wildfire. Soon, classmates joined in, bringing bags of donations from home. He watched her blossom as a leader, and it filled him with pride. Meanwhile, Zach reached out to local businesses and friends in the startup community, sharing their cause. Responses varied from encouraging pledges to genuine support, but each message carried with it the possibility of hope. A part of him still worried if he could truly deliver for Lily and others like her. But every conversation filled him with resolve. One night, while counting donations with Mia, he turned to her, feeling unusually drawn to her youthful wisdom. "You're really making a difference here, sweetheart. I'm proud of you." Mia beamed, her cheeks flushed with joy. "Thanks, Dad. But you're doing this too. We're a team." Her words struck a chord. They were indeed a team in this fight for everyone, like Lily striving to bring forth something bigger than themselves. It wasn't just the size of their dream, but the heart that fueled it that mattered. As the food drive day approached, Zach's excitement grew, but so did the anxiety. He could see the uncertainty lurking in the neighborhood, the challenges they would face as they stepped beyond their comfort zones. They set up at a local park, transforming it into a hub of activity with banners, boxes, and cheerful voices calling for donations. On the day of the event, a buzzing energy filled the air. People gathered to lend a hand, and laughter echoed amidst the chatter. But in the midst of the joy, Zach caught sight of a familiar face. Lily had come. He felt his heart leap as she approached, carrying bags filled with groceries. "Hey, I know things have been tough," she said, her voice calm yet vibrant. "But seeing this the way you're helping, it inspires me. Can I help with the setup?" Zach looked at her, admiration filling his chest. "Of course. We could use your help." Together, they arranged the donations, and amidst the flurry of activity, Zach felt a connection sparking. It wasn't just about food or clothes. It was about hope, resilience, and the bonds they were forging in the fight against adversity. As the event wound down and the sun began to set, Zach stood back and watched the fruits of their labor. The community had come together, united in purpose and spirit. But then, an unexpected challenge loomed. A sudden storm rolled in, casting a shadow over their hard work. It was a reminder of the unpredictability of life. Zach turned to Mia, who looked worried but determined. "What do we do now, Dad?" He met her gaze, his heart pounding. "We adapt. That's what we do. Together." But as thunder rolled, he wondered if they could indeed weather the storm ahead. The storm broke like a sudden wave crashing against the shore. Rain lashed at the park, turning the cheerful scene into a blur of color and chaos. Zach quickly grabbed Mia's hand, pulling her close as the wind picked up. The banner they had painstakingly hung flapped violently, and he felt the first hint of panic threading through his chest. "Over there!" he shouted above the roar of the wind, pointing toward a nearby gazebo. "We can take shelter." As they ran, Zach's thoughts darted to the piles of donations. Would everything they had worked for get drenched and ruined? The visions of their efforts drowning under heavy rain weighed heavily on his mind. They reached the gazebo, and Mia looked up at him, her eyes wide with worry. "Dad, what if everyone leaves? What if they don't come back?" Her voice trembled slightly, and Zach felt a lump form in his throat. He knelt down so he could look her in the eye, determination bubbling inside of him. "Listen, Mia. We might not be able to control the weather, but we can control how we respond. Remember why we're doing this. It's about the people who need us. As the rain fell harder, Zach scanned the park. Some people moved to their cars, while others stayed close, seeking refuge. He saw Lily standing at the edge, clinging to a stack of boxes. Fear flickered across her face, but something else showed in her eyes: resolve. Choices, Zach murmured to himself. He turned to Mia again, a spark igniting within him. Let us gather everyone back. If we can show everyone that we're not going to let a little rain stop us, maybe they'll feel inspired to stick around. Before Mia could respond, Zach stood and raised his arms, calling to the others who sought shelter. Hey! We're still here. Let us bring the spirit back. We can keep this going even in the rain. With every word, Mia's face transformed. She joined her father, waving her arms and shouting for attention. One by one, heads turned, and smiles began to emerge. Like ripples in a pond, excitement spread. People started making their way back to the gazebo. Once everyone was gathered, Zach glanced around at the hopeful faces, determination bubbling in the air like the brewing storm just moments before. All right. The rain won't stop us. We're here to make a difference, and that starts right now. Lily stepped forward, her voice steady despite the chaos around them. We can still organize the donations, even if we have to do it here. Let us get them sorted inside, and we'll deliver them later. Gasps of agreement erupted from the crowd. With renewed purpose, they began to sort through the donations, laughter and chatter mixing with the sounds of the rain. Zach realized he was witnessing something beautiful. This wasn't just a community. It was a family coming together in a time of need. As he helped organize the boxes, a wave of gratitude washed over him. In the face of uncertainty, they found strength in solidarity. But just as they settled into a rhythm, a loud clap of thunder cracked above them, causing Zach to jump. A frantic woman emerged from the rain, frantically waving her arms. Help! Someone needs help! Zach's heart dropped. The storm wasn't just a distraction, it was bringing challenges right to their doorstep. Mia, stay close, he shouted, moving toward the woman. As he approached her, he could see the panic in her eyes. What's wrong? Who needs help? The woman gasped for breath, and Zach felt the world tilt on its axis. What would he discover just as the real storm threatened to break loose both in the skies and in their hearts? The woman's breath came in frantic bursts, her eyes darting between Zach and the pouring rain. My daughter? She is trapped in the car. The floodwaters are rising. Zach's heart raced. Where? How far? He felt the weight of Mia beside him, her small hand squeezing his tightly, sensing his growing tension. Just down the road around the bend, she cried, desperation leaking into her voice. Please, I need someone to help. With a quick glance at Mia, Zach tried to gauge her fear. Mia, I need you to stay here with Lily. Can you do that? He had to make a decision, and fast. No, I want to help, she insisted, her face set with determination despite the chaos. Zach could see she wanted to be brave, just like him. Okay, he said, swallowing hard, his own fear quickly morphing into resolve. But promise me you'll stay close and listen to me. We'll get through this together. Mia nodded, her eyes wide and trusting. Let us move, he shouted, rallying others around him. We need to help her daughter. Who's coming? A couple of volunteers stepped forward, faces taut with determination amidst the storm's fury. Zach felt a fire in his chest. They were a team, together, ready to face anything. As they dashed toward the street, the rain drenched them instantly. It turned the pavement into a slick, treacherous surface. Zach focused on the road ahead, scanning for the car the woman had described. With each step, His heart pounded louder. Suddenly, they saw a small vehicle partially submerged in floodwater. The car's windshield was foggy. It loomed like a submerged beast in a sea of murky rain. Zack rushed forward, taking long strides, but each step felt heavier. "Help! Somebody help me!" A faint cry rang out from inside the car. It tugged at Zack's heart. He glanced back at Mia, who had stuck close, a look of unwavering determination on her face. "Stay back, Mia," he yelled, as he approached the car, surveying the scene. The water was already knee-deep, rushing around him. He reached the car and saw a young girl, her face pressed against the window, fear etched in her features. "Hold on. We're going to get you out," he shouted, swinging open the door. The cold water surged inside, washing over him. He felt a rush of nerves, but steeled himself as the girl reached out, tears glistening in her eyes. Zack leaned in, gripping her small hand. "You're safe now. We'll get you out of here." With that, he pulled her into his arms, feeling her small body shake with fear. He turned and saw Mia's eyes locked onto the scene. It struck him, this was more than a rescue. It was about showing her courage in the face of fear. Mingled screams of thunder accompanied Zack as he moved through the water with the girl in his arms. Each step was a reminder of the stakes, and the storm that swirled above them mirrored the tumult inside him. Finally, with one last surge, they reached dry ground, other volunteers stepping forward to help. The girl cried with relief. Her mother rushed to her side, wrapping her arms around her daughter with gratitude pouring from every pore. But in that moment of triumph, an unsettling thought flickered through Zack's mind. What if this storm was just the beginning of something bigger? As the woman held her daughter close, overwhelming emotions washed through Zack, but he knew there was still more they needed to do. As the rain continued to pelt down, a voice echoed from the crowd. "What about the donations?" The word lingered in the air, heavy with uncertainty. Zack's heart sank. Their efforts, the reason they all gathered, now felt lost amidst the chaos. With a growing sense of urgency, he faced Mia, a question in his heart that remained unvoiced. How far would they have to go to ensure this community emerged stronger from the storm? The moment hung thick in the air, a mixture of relief and dread. Zack turned away from the grateful mother and her daughter, feeling a chill that had nothing to do with the rain. The cries for help were not just echoes of yesterday's storm. They were reminders of the rising tide of vulnerability in their community. "Zack! Over here!" one of the volunteers shouted, snapping him out of his thoughts. It was Greg, a sturdy man with a weathered face, waving his arms. "The donation truck is parked at the gas station. We need hands to unload supplies." Zack's heart raced again. Supplies? That was the answer. They needed to get those donations moving if they were going to help anyone else caught in this mess. "Let us go!" he shouted, adrenaline fueling his voice. He quickly gathered Mia and the rest of the group, leading them toward the gas station, where the fluorescent lights flickered against the darkened sky. The deluge had transformed the landscape into a chaotic river, with debris floating along like unwanted memories. Zack felt the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. He glanced down at Mia. Her spirit didn't waver. It burned bright, even against the backdrop of the storm. They reached the gas station, finding the truck belching steam as weary volunteers unloaded boxes filled with essentials. Bottled water, blankets, food. Each item was a lifeline. "We need to make this happen fast," Zack called out, rallying the team. Mia jumped in to help, her small hands working alongside the bigger ones, laughter and urgency mingling as they passed items down the line. The rain still hammered relentlessly, but they were warmer now, enveloped in determination and camaraderie. Suddenly, a thick silence fell over the frantic laughter. Sarah, another volunteer, looked pale, her eyes darting toward the street. The water level. It's rising too quickly. We need to move everything or the truck will be trapped. Zach's breath hitched. Panic could quickly spread like wildfire in a situation like this. He turned to the group, every second counting. We need to form a wall. Take the supplies to higher ground. Come on. Mia took his hand tightly, and they both jumped forward, gathering whatever they could carry. Zach felt her resolve match his own. It reminded him of the little moments, like the ones they shared while baking cookies or building Lego towers. They could build something here too, even in the middle of a storm. As they moved the last of the boxes, Zach noticed a group of people huddled together in distress, eyes wide with uncertainty and fear about the floodwaters rising nearby. Their faces were familiar neighbors that Zach had often waved to while mowing his lawn. They were all facing the storm together. Me? He called out, gently nudging his daughter towards the group. Go stay with them for a minute while I see if we can get some of that food distributed. They need it. As she nodded and scurried over, Zach felt a swell of pride in her determination. She was becoming the brave soul he always hoped she would be. He turned back to the sea of donations, the flickering lights overhead casting a harsh glow over the scene. But even with the movement around him, a heavy knot of worry twisted in his stomach. They could save lives here today, but they were also racing against something much bigger. Glancing towards the darkened horizon, Zach couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. What else lay ahead for them? How far would they need to go? The thunder rumbled again, louder this time, shaken by a promise of chaos to come. And then Zach. We need you over here. What was happening now? The urgency in the voice echoed louder than the rain. Was there more they had to face? Zach turned sharply at the call, his heart pounding like the rain hitting the asphalt. The voice belonged to Jess, a young volunteer who had been frantically sorting supplies. She was gesturing wildly toward the back of the truck, her face contorted with concern. What is going on? He yelled over the crashing storm. There's a family trapped in their house. The water is rising, and they need help getting out. She shouted, eyes wide. The world around him faded momentarily, as the weight of her words sank in. A family in trouble. Fear gripped him. This was exactly what he had feared all along. Let us go, he commanded. With only a moment's hesitation, he turned to Mia, who was still with the neighbors. Stay here with the others. I'll be right back. She looked up at him, uncertainty flickering behind her brave facade, but he forced a smile for reassurance. He sprinted toward the truck, heart hammering, the rain soaking through his clothes. Greg joined him, gasping for breath. Where do we go? Down Maple Street, Jess called out, already moving toward the cresting waters that streamed down the road. They're in the greenhouse on the left. Zach's stomach twisted as he sprinted and splashed through the water with Greg by his side. Each step felt heavier, the current dangerously powerful. The trees swayed, branches snapping like dry twigs as thunder rolled overhead. Zach, Greg shouted. Do you think we'll make it in time? Absolutely, Zach replied, though the anxious flutter in his chest betrayed him. He let doubt sneak in. It was not just about getting there. It was about saving lives. They reached the greenhouse, the water swirling around their knees. They could hear muffled cries through the relentless drumming of rain. Help! A voice called. Stay calm. We're coming, Zach shouted, pushing back panic. He gestured for Greg to follow him as they splashed across the yard, praying they weren't too late. They banged on the door, shouting for the family inside to open up. Seconds felt like minutes, but finally the creaking sound echoed as the door swung open, revealing a woman clutching her two young children, faces streaked with fear and confusion. Please, we need to get out, she pleaded, desperation coloring her voice. Come on, Zach urged, extending his hand toward them. We'll get you to safety. The moment stretched as the children hesitated, eyes wide, absorbing the chaos around them. Zach knelt down, matching their gaze. "It's going to be okay. I promise. Just take my hand." The small boy, hardly more than 4, reached out first. The mother grabbed her daughter's hand tightly, stepping into the raging waters. Zach's heart raced as they moved through the rising current, but they were nearly back to the road when an ominous crash filled the air. Greg spun around, eyes searching the collapsing structures around them. "Zach! The old bridge! It's going!" The ground shook underfoot. The water surged, angry and powerful. "Run!" Zach yelled, grabbing the mother's arm, urging her forward as the fibers of his resolve began to fray. With panic kicking in, he pulled the family close. Then he turned, glancing back as the fading light disappeared behind walls of crashing water, heart pounding for Mia, for everyone left waiting, for hope uncertain in the chaos. Was this the moment everything would change? "Keep going!" he shouted, urgency rolling through his voice. Could they all survive this storm? The crash of thunder roared again, and Zach couldn't shake the feeling that their survival depended on each heartbeat that echoed in this relentless tempest. As they sprinted toward what seemed to be safety, he couldn't help but wonder what his own limits truly were, and just how far he would go for those he loved. Would this storm take everything they held dear, or would it forge a new path through the wreckage? Zach felt the cold water lapping at his legs as he pushed ahead, his heart racing with the sheer weight of the responsibility he had taken on. The rain hammered down, but he felt a flicker of determination inside him. He couldn't let fear seep into his bones now. "Mommy!" the daughter cried out, her voice a small, fragile thing in the chaos around them. The mother tightened her grip on the girl's hand, pulling her closer, the three of them moving as one. Just a few more steps, Zach told himself. They could make it. They splashed forward, and as Zach turned to check on Greg, he saw the look of sheer panic etched deep on his friend's face. The bridge was collapsing behind them, and debris began to fall into the swirling water. "Zach, we have to hurry," Greg shouted, his voice strained and urgent. "Almost there," Zach yelled back, pushing himself and the family forward with all his strength. They reached the road's solid ground, shaking under the relentless assault of the storm, but even then, the danger wasn't over. Just moments later, a wooden beam crashed down into the water nearby, sending spray shooting into the air. They stumbled onto the pavement, the water only up to their ankles now. But Zach knew they couldn't stop. They needed to get away from the house and the rising flood. "This way," he gestured, leading them up the street, where a group of volunteers was gathering by a makeshift shelter. He could already hear distant shouts from others in the community, a patchwork of voices rising above the noise of the storm, rallying together. Zach felt an unfamiliar warmth as he realized their small town was banding together, even in the face of disaster. But that warmth quickly turned chill as he remembered Mia left behind, unaware of the chaos unfolding. What about the others? He thought aloud, panic creeping back in. We need to get back and help. The mother, eyes wide with fear, looked up at him. Is there anyone else coming? My husband, he is still inside. Her voice trembled, the helplessness cutting deeper than the cold around them. He felt his heart twist. I'm so sorry, he began, but he couldn't think of how to comfort her while still urging her to safety. We can't risk going back now. The water, his voice faltered. Before anyone could reply, a figure emerged through the pounding rain. It was Mia, drenched but alive, her face illuminated with courage. She waved, calling out, Zach, I found help. All tension in his chest gave way to relief as she raced toward him. But that sense of safety was fleeting. Beyond her, another shout echoed. Zach! It was Jess, chasing after Mia, a few volunteers following close behind. Mia, are you okay? He rushed to her side, scanning her for injuries. She nodded, breathless but unwavering, her presence a beacon in the storm. "There's more people we need to rescue," she said, her voice resolute despite the circumstances. Zach's heart soared and sank in equal measure. There was no time to celebrate their reunion. They had to do more. "Okay, we need to regroup. Everyone who can help, we go back," he shouted, gathering volunteers around him. As they stood together, united against the flood, he could see the fire in their eyes, their determination to face the storm head-on. But what would happen if they didn't make it in time? What if by turning back, they put themselves in danger again? "Zach," Greg urged, "we can't wait. Every minute counts." With the weight of choices pressing heavily upon him, Zach stared back down Maple Street, where shadows loomed dark, each one a reminder of how fragile life had become. Would risking everything be enough to save them all? And as thunder clapped overhead again, he took a deep breath, ready to make a choice that could change everything. Zach's heart thudded loudly in his chest, drowning out the storm's roar for a brief moment. The urgency in Greg's voice clawed at him, demanding action. Every muscle in his body tightened as he weighed the decision before him: help those still trapped or preserve the lives in front of him. No time to waste, he thought. "Okay, listen up," Zach shouted, his voice cutting through the chaotic noise. "We're going back, but we need to stick together. No one goes off alone. Understand?" He glanced at Mia, and she nodded, ready to follow him. Relief washed over him again, buoyed by her spirit. "Zach," Greg interrupted, eyes flicking nervously toward the rising water, "what if we don't make it back?" "They will," Mia insisted. "They're depending on us." Zach faced both of them, the weight of their trust pressing down on him. "Then we'll find them. We've got to believe we can do this." He turned to the volunteers, each soul there giving him strength. "Let us go!" As they retraced their steps down Maple Street, the rain fell heavier, clouds threatening to swallow the light as dusk approached. The air was thick with tension and determination, every heartbeat echoing their resolve. The water was rising again. It swirled dangerously close to the edges of the street, a reminder of how quickly life could be swept away. The earlier warmth he felt about the community began to wane as dread settled in. He couldn't shake the images of people struggling, losing everything, and he pushed that notion away. There was still hope. Suddenly, a cry pierced through the rain. "Help!" It was followed by a desperate shout, heavy with panic. "Over there!" Mia pointed, and they all turned toward a half-submerged house where shadows flitted behind the windows. Without hesitation, Zach spurred the group onward, adrenaline kicking in. "Stick close," he called, feeling Greg and Mia at his side. The water surged against their legs, but they kept moving. It was like wading through cold syrup, each step feeling monumental. They reached the house just as the cries turned frantic, echoing through the cascading raindrops. "We need to break in," Zach shouted, panic surging through his veins. He could sense the urgency rising, like a tidal wave. Greg took a step back, unease tangled with determination. "Are you sure?" "It's too risky." His voice trembled slightly. "Risk?" Zach shot back, a twinge of anger sparking frustration. "What choice do we have? We can't leave them." Mia moved next to him, her eyes fierce. "Let us go. People are in there, and we can't just stand here." With their focus firm, they approached the door, which was hanging off its hinges. Zach pushed it open, water rushing in to greet them. The air was thick and musty, a stark contrast to the fresh rain outside. The cries grew louder, urgency amplifying with every moment. "Hello!" he shouted into the darkness, fear and hope mingling inside him. "Can you hear me? We're here to help." "Zach!" Jess yelled from behind them, panic in her voice. "More people are trapped upstairs." Zach's heart sank. We have to get them out. Without thinking, he braved the steps that creaked ominously beneath his weight. Each step was a gamble, shifting his mind to the most critical thoughts. What if they weren't just trapped? What if they were? Yet he couldn't entertain that thought. Not now. As he reached the top, he felt the weight of his choices spiral around him. Maybe he could lead them all to safety. Maybe. And just then, from behind a door, he heard another muffled cry. It was faint but desperate, and he felt it tug at his heart. Hold on. We're coming, he shouted, determined. Would he be able to save them, or was he leading them into darkness? Zach's breath came in quick, shallow gasps as he leaned against the doorframe, listening intently. That muffled cry was a lifeline, a spark of hope in the thick, cloying darkness. It lured him deeper into the dimly lit corridor. Water dripped from the ceiling, the sound echoing ominously around him, each drop a reminder of the peril that surrounded them. Please be careful. Mia's voice followed him, her words soaked in concern. Don't take any risks. He turned, momentarily holding her gaze. He saw the worry etched on her face, but also an undeniable resolve. That strength fueled him. I'll be quick, he promised, pushing the door open wider. The air held an oppressive weight, almost tangible, as he stepped into the narrow space. He felt as if he were diving into a deep abyss, each step taking him further from safety. The cries grew louder, more defined. They were desperate. Hang on. I'm coming, Zach shouted, his voice firm yet quaking. He needed to be their anchor, just like Mia and Greg were for him. With every step he took, the floor beneath him creaked, warning him of its fragility. He stumbled into a small room where the water had seeped in to just below his knees. He squinted into the gloom, and then, through the murky darkness, he spotted movement. A child. A small girl huddled against the wall, clutching a stuffed bear, her eyes wide with terror. Okay, Zach knelt down, trying to keep his voice steady. I'm here. It's going to be okay. He reached out a hand, and her eyes widened, a flash of fear preventing her from moving. Don't be scared. I'm not going to hurt you. I promise. Where is my mom? She choked out. The question hit him like a punch to the gut. Zach's heart twisted in his chest. He didn't have an answer. I'll find her, I swear. He offered a reassuring smile, even though he felt anything but confident. Can you stand? Can you come with me? The little girl nodded hesitantly, her small fingers wrapping around his hand, fragile but trusting. As he helped her to her feet, the water sloshed around them, a constant reminder of the chaos outside. Let us get you to safety, he urged. He turned to leave the room, glancing back to ensure she was right behind him. The shadow of dread loomed, whispering doubts at the back of his mind. What if her mother was somewhere he couldn't reach? He could almost feel the walls closing in on him as he retraced his steps, guiding her carefully. The cries from upstairs still echoed, a bittersweet symphony of despair and hope. Suddenly, a loud crash reverberated through the house, jolting him as dust rained from the ceiling. Zach. Greg's voice caught through the chaos once more. We have to hurry. The water level is rising. Come on, Zach urged, pulling the girl along as he rushed back to where Mia and Greg were waiting. They stood at the top of the staircase, anxiety written across their faces. Together, they formed a human chain, supporting one another as they navigated the chaos toward the exit. The little girl squeezed his hand, and he saw trust reflected in her fearful eyes. But as they neared the door, a surge of water crashed through, and Zach stumbled, losing his grip. Her hand slipped from his grasp. No! He yelled, as time slowed. The world around him fell into a swirling, frantic chaos. The girl's terrified scream echoed in his ears as he reached out just in time to grab her wrist. He pulled her back, adrenaline coursing through his veins. "I've got you!" he cried, heart racing. But in that frantic moment, he couldn't shake the thought, what if this was the end of their struggles? As they burst through the doorway into the storm's fury, Zack spared a glance back. More cries echoed from within, the desperate pleas of those still trapped in the shadows. How many people were out there needing someone? And that thought clawed at his heart as they plunged into the torrent outside. Would he be able to save them all? Or was he about to face a far worse fate than he ever imagined? The storm raged around them, wind howling like a beast, rain pounding down in relentless sheets. Zack clutched the little girl's hand, her small body trembling beside him. They were out of the house, but the fight was over. The chaos that surrounded them mirrored the panic inside him. "All right," he shouted above the storm, "we need to find high ground." With Mia and Greg by his side, they pushed forward, splashing through the rising water. Each step forward was a battle against nature itself. The current tugged at their legs, threatening to pull them back into the depths. But together, they forged ahead, each heartbeat a reminder that they wouldn't give up. Every person mattered. "Daddy!" the little girl cried, her voice breaking his concentration. He squeezed her hand tighter as he led her forward. They reached a section of pavement that felt slightly elevated amidst the chaos. He turned to Mia, desperation flickering in his eyes. "Can you see if there is anyone else we can help?" She nodded, determination etching her features. "I will." And just like that, she took off, searching for more families in distress. Meanwhile, Zack felt the weight of the world pressing down on him. The rain was unyielding, hitting his skin with icy fingers. Through the sheets of water, he caught Greg's eye. "We have to get that little girl to a shelter. She needs warmth and safety." "I'll carry her," Greg said, knelt down, ready to lift her into his arms. Zack nodded, grateful for his friend's willingness to help. "We'll make it through this together." Just as Greg hoisted the girl up, a sudden crash echoed behind them. The old bridge they had just escaped from groaned under the storm's fury, collapsing into the roiling waters with a horrifying roar. "We've got to go!" Zack shouted, urgency clawing at him. They rushed away from the danger, hearts pounding like fists against the chest. A part of Zack worried for Mia, but he had faith in her resolve. She was his strength, his light even in the darkest hour. As they approached a nearby community center, the flickering lights inside called to them like a beacon of hope. Together they burst through the doors, drenched but alive. The place was packed. Neighbors and volunteers had gathered, working to sort supplies and coordinate rescues. "Get her some dry clothes," Greg shouted, setting the little girl down. A nearby volunteer rushed over with a blanket, wrapping her up immediately. "Good job, everyone," Zack cheered, pride swelling in his chest. "We're making a difference." Mia appeared a moment later, breathless but glowing with excitement. "There are more people towards the other end of town. We can help them." Zack knelt down, meeting her gaze. "You're incredible, you know that? But we have to be smart. It's not safe out there. But we can't leave anyone behind," she insisted, determination sparkling in her blue eyes. Greg added, "She's right, Zack. We have to try." Zack took a deep breath, weighing the danger against the need. "All right, if we go together. We'll find those people." As they stepped back into the storm, a sense of purpose surged through Zack's veins. They moved as a unit, navigating the chaos with newfound determination. Each person they rescued, each family they found, reminded them of their mission. This was bigger than themselves. Hours passed, the storm slowly tapering off, but their work continued. They pushed on, growing tired but never surrendering. Slowly, the neighborhood began to emerge from the turmoil, neighbors reaching out to one another and finding strength they didn't know they had. As the sun began to set, a breathtaking light broke through the clouds. It radiated warmth and hope amid the destruction. Despite everything they had faced, they had endured. Zach stood with Mia, their hands intertwined, watching as people gathered around them, their community coming together in resilience and love. Tears sprang to Zach's eyes. It wasn't just a storm that changed them. It was their collective spirit that turned despair into hope. They had transformed from individuals into a family, stronger together, even amid chaos. Mia turned to him with a radiant smile, a sparkle of triumph in her eyes. "We did it, Dad. We really helped them." "Yes, we did," Zach replied, pulling her into a tight embrace, grateful for her unyielding spirit. In that moment, he realized that while they couldn't control the storms life threw at them, they could control how they faced them. Side by side, they'd tackle whatever came next. And as hope filled the air, Zach knew one thing for certain: the bonds forged in the storm would last forever. Now, it's your turn to make a difference. Subscribe now to the channel to never miss inspiring stories like this again, and to support our mission. Leave a like to help us reach more hearts and spread hope. Comment below with your thoughts on the amazing bonds we can create in tough times. And share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness the strength of community. Don't wait not even one more second to be part of this movement. You need to subscribe now and keep the light shining.